People often say you can judge a person's character by how they treat the janitor, but no one seemed to care about that as Nancy Walker, in her faded red shirt and old uniform, pushed her cleaning cart through the shiny doors of Titan Industries, one of New York's most powerful corporations. With her hair neatly tied back, head lowered, and calloused hands from years of hard work, Nancy was invisible to the managers and employees who walked briskly by, dressed in their high-end suits, preoccupied with meetings and deadlines. As Nancy quietly cleaned the meticulously polished floors, her worn red shirt contrasted starkly against the luxurious surroundings. To those in the building, she was just part of the scenery, a fixture like the tables, chairs, and floors she scrubbed daily, cleaning up messes left behind without notice or thanks. Nancy had worked at Titan Industries for many years, and she knew every inch of that building, from its plush boardrooms on the top floors to the forgotten storage rooms below. Yet nobody saw that Nancy Walker, the cleaning lady, was more than met the eye. She observed everything, the powerful figures passing by, the way they treated each other, and the small details others overlooked. She'd seen managers like Greg Summers, known for his arrogance, mocking her with sneers and snide remarks. She'd endured years of managers like David Harris, who looked right through her, deeming her unworthy of acknowledgement. To them, she was nothing more than a cleaner, an invisible cog in the machinery of Titan Industries. But Nancy's silence wasn't weakness, it was patience. She remembered every unkind word, every condescending glance, and she knew one day the tables would turn. The day was fast approaching when Nancy would no longer be silent, when those who dismissed her would understand her true value. That day, while David Harris and his colleagues continued their careless laughter, a new hire named Emma Brown observed from a distance. Fresh out of business school, Emma had already sensed the arrogance embedded in Titan's culture, particularly among senior managers like David. Unlike her colleagues, she didn't overlook Nancy. From her first day, Emma noticed the quiet, sharp-eyed cleaner who moved through the building with a strange calm and hidden confidence. There was something in Nancy's gaze, an awareness, an intelligence waiting to emerge. Emma didn't know what lay behind that knowing look, but she couldn't shake the feeling that Nancy Walker was no ordinary cleaner. And soon, everyone at Titan Industries would come to see just how much they'd underestimated the woman in the faded red shirt. That day, whenever Emma glanced at Nancy, the memory of David Harris's snide remark replayed in her mind. She couldn't understand how people could be so disrespectful, especially towards someone like Nancy. Emma watched as Nancy continued working, seemingly unaffected. It intrigued her, hinting that Nancy had a resilience and strength that people like David overlooked. Nancy's calm, her patience, and her meticulous focus on every detail made Emma believe there was more to her than met the eye. Emma had often heard that a person's character could be judged by how they treated those in lower positions, and David's mocking laughter revealed his arrogance. The senior managers seemed blind to the fact that people like Nancy, the ones they ignored, were essential to Titan Industries' daily functioning. As Emma returned to her desk, she continued to observe Nancy, who was quietly cleaning the boardroom. She couldn't shake the feeling that Nancy wouldn't remain in the background forever. Nancy's quiet strength and deliberate movements hinted at an untold story, one that Emma sensed would soon come to light. That afternoon, as employees at Titan Industries rushed to prepare for the annual review with CEO Robert Mason, the tension was palpable. The leaders anxiously arranged reports and charts, understanding that this meeting could shape their futures at the company. Nancy, still wearing her faded red shirt, was there, pushing her cleaning cart through the rows of chairs in preparation for the meeting. When Robert Mason entered, his powerful presence commanded the room. Dressed in a tailored gray suit, he scanned the room, his sharp gaze assessing everyone and everything. Silence filled the room, but then, unexpectedly, his gaze stopped on Nancy in the corner. Smiling warmly, he addressed her. "Nancy, I think it's time, isn't it?" The room froze. Murmurs began as senior directors exchanged glances, trying to make sense of what had just happened. David Harris, who had mocked Nancy earlier, sat in stunned silence, his smirk erased. Everyone was trying to grasp why the CEO had just addressed the cleaning woman with such familiarity. Nancy put down her cleaning rag, lifting her head with a newfound confidence. Walking to the center of the room, her demeanor changed. She no longer seemed like the quiet cleaner everyone had ignored. Emma's heart raced as she watched, realizing this moment was the culmination of something monumental. Mason's next words shattered the room's silence. "I'd like to introduce Titan Industries' main shareholder, Nancy Walker." A wave of shock rippled through the room. The directors, the ones who wielded so much influence, now looked at Nancy with wide eyes in disbelief. David Harris, pale and stunned, stared at her as if seeing a ghost. It dawned on him that the woman he had belittled was, in fact, the one who held power over the company's future. Nancy stood tall, no longer the quiet woman in the faded red shirt, but the true force behind Titan Industries. The room's atmosphere shifted completely. The laughter, the arrogance, all of it had vanished, replaced by a reverent silence. Nancy had emerged from the shadows, ready to reshape everything, and this was only the beginning. Nancy Walker's announcement stunned the room, transforming its atmosphere in an instant. She took a deep breath, her voice calm but resolute as she began to speak, her words carrying weight. For years, Nancy's eyes met each person at the table. "I've watched how you've run this company. I haven't been sitting behind a desk in some corner office. I've walked through every hallway, attended every board meeting, and observed everything happening here. You thought I was invisible, just another face in the background. But I've seen it all." Her tone commanded attention, and no one dared to interrupt. Even David Harris, who had mocked her earlier, sat frozen in his seat, his usual confidence drained, replaced with confusion and shock. "I've seen how you treat the people working beneath you, how you reduce them to nothing but tools for your profit margins," Nancy continued, her voice unwavering. "You fostered an environment that prioritizes arrogance and self-interest over respect and collaboration. But today, that changes." Nancy's gaze hardened as she looked around the room. Everyone could feel a shift. She was no longer the cleaning lady, but a woman of power, ready to reshape the company. "For years," she revealed, "I've been quietly buying shares. I am now the majority shareholder of Titan Industries. From today, I decide how this company is run." Her words sliced through the silence, and the directors began to whisper, realizing she held their futures in her hands. They had belittled and underestimated her for so long, never imagining she would hold such power. Standing nearby was Robert Mason, her only ally among the executives. Nancy nodded toward him. "Robert understands that a company isn't just about profits. It's about people, the ones who dedicate themselves to its success. He's the only one who stood with me from the start." Mason smiled, affirming her words. Together, they had crafted a vision for a better company. Nancy's attention turned to David, her voice dropping to a sharp edge. "David," she said coldly, "do you remember what you said to me this morning? The condescension, The arrogance? David couldn't look her in the eye. She stepped forward, facing him directly. "You're fired, effective immediately." The room filled with murmurs as shock rippled through the crowd. David sat motionless, his once secure position and status vanished in seconds. His colleagues looked at him, finally seeing him without the shield of his authority, and none dared intervene. Nancy stood taller than any of them. She wasn't just proving her power, she was embodying values of respect and integrity that the company had long neglected. "This is a wake-up call for all of you," Nancy announced. "If you don't start valuing people, this won't be the last dismissal." Her words hung in the air as the room fell silent once more. They were all grappling with the same realization. The woman they had dismissed for years now held the ultimate authority. But this firing was only the beginning. Nancy's determined gaze swept the room, letting everyone know that changes were inevitable. "This company will no longer be about profit above all else," she declared. "You've reduced people to mere numbers on a spreadsheet, disregarding the loyalty and hard work that built this company. That ends now. From today, the culture of Titan Industries changes, and I will ensure that happens." Some of the directors exchanged uneasy glances, feeling the ground shift beneath them. They had led with control and dominance, giving little thought to those under them. But Nancy's revolution would not allow that any longer. Those who refused to change knew that their positions were at risk. Nancy looked around the room, locking eyes with those who still wore expressions of disbelief and worry. "David Harris was the first, but he won't be the last if you cling to the old ways. If you don't start respecting the people who make this company thrive, you will face the same fate. I'm not here to criticize. I'm here to warn you. If you don't change, I'll make sure you do." The silence that followed was palpable, filled with the rapid heartbeats of those who knew their days of unchallenged dominance were over. Nancy's words had shaken the company to its core, setting a new path. They realized that adapting to this new culture would determine their future here. Nancy ended with one final look around the room, her presence as formidable as her words. They now saw her not as the woman who had once cleaned their boardrooms, but as a leader who could and would reshape Titan Industries. In a boardroom thick with tension at Titan Industries, Robert Marinault, the company's CEO, stood observing an important meeting. His steady presence conveyed his support for the profound changes taking place. Robert had seen the need for this shift long before, understanding that a company's success relied not only on profit, but on a culture of mutual respect, where every employee's potential was recognized. He nodded in agreement as Nancy Walker, head of the initiative, outlined her vision. This did not go unnoticed by the managers present, who now realized the depth of the commitment behind the transformation. They had to adapt or be left behind. Nancy's voice softened but remained resolute. "I'm not here to dismantle this company," she began, her gaze steady. "On the contrary, I'm here to rebuild it from our mistakes. Titan Industries will be a place where everyone, from the ground up, is valued and respected. No one here is just a number. From today on, everyone will have a chance to prove their worth." Emma Brown, a newer employee, stood at the back, her heart racing as she listened. This was exactly the kind of positive change she had hoped for when she joined Titan. She had already glimpsed the darker side of the company's culture, but now, with Nancy at the helm, a real transformation was underway. "And for those who can't embrace this change," Nancy continued, her eyes scanning the room, There's the door. Titan Industries will no longer tolerate those unwilling to contribute to a collaborative, respectful environment. This company will thrive on respect and teamwork, not on arrogance or intimidation. Nancy's words echoed through the silent room, a warning, but also an invitation for renewal. For the committed, this was a chance to step into a new chapter. It was clear to all that the old dynamics were being dismantled, and Nancy Walker was leading the charge into a new era. The boardroom remained quiet, yet everyone sensed the significance of this moment. After Nancy's powerful statements, the weight of her intentions hung in the air. The days of unchecked power and disrespect were over. Then Nancy's gaze fell on Greg Summers, a senior manager notorious for his arrogance and ambition. Greg, who had spent years climbing the corporate ladder by any means necessary, now looked uneasy under Nancy's scrutiny. He had sensed the shift, but hadn't imagined it would target him. She approached him, her tone measured but powerful. "Greg Summers," she said, "do you understand why I'm addressing you?" Greg's confidence faltered as he stammered, I've worked hard for this company. I don't understand why you're doing this." Nancy's expression remained firm. "Hard work?" she replied. "Do you consider stepping on others and disrespecting your colleagues as hard work? You've had ample opportunities to change, but you ignored them all." Greg's face went pale as the gravity of the situation dawned on him. Nancy wasn't stopping with words. "Greg Summers, you're dismissed from Titan Industries, effective immediately." A stunned murmur rippled through the room as the announcement registered. Some directors looked shocked, others relieved. For too long, abusive behavior had gone unchallenged, but now a shift had begun. Greg sat frozen, his face drained of color as he struggled to grasp what had just happened. I can change," he pleaded, desperation lacing his voice. Nancy shook her head firmly. "Your chances are over, Greg. Your actions have harmed not just individuals, but the entire work environment here at Titan Industries." The room watched, transfixed, as Nancy calmly held her ground, ushering in a new era for the company. In this moment, everyone understood that Titan Industries would move forward with a foundation of respect and integrity, an organization transformed by the leadership that held itself and everyone else accountable. Greg lowered his head, unable to speak. Everything he had built, his power, reputation, and position within the company, had crumbled in a single moment. Around him, others exchanged glances, a mix of shock and satisfaction on their faces. Finally, someone like Greg was being held accountable. Nancy turned back to address the entire room, her gaze firm and unwavering. "This isn't just a lesson for David or Greg. It's a message for everyone here. The culture of this company will change. Arrogance, belittling others, and abuse of power will no longer have a place at Titan Industries. We will create a workplace where everyone is respected and valued for their contributions." Silence filled the room as Nancy's words settled. The directors, once entrenched in a culture of entitlement, now sensed the shifting atmosphere. Some looked visibly uneasy, while others nodded slightly, as if acknowledging the necessity of the transformation. The invisible walls of self-importance they'd built over the years had begun to crumble, replaced by an emerging era of accountability and respect. Nancy scanned the room, her gaze lingering on each face. "I'm not here to tear anyone down, but I won't allow a toxic work environment to persist. If you're willing to adapt and embrace this change, there is a place for you in this company's future. If not, you're free to find another path." No one dared protest. They understood that Nancy was now in command and that they faced a choice: adapt to the new values she was instilling or leave. A renewed sense of direction began to permeate the room, a wind of change that Nancy Walker was now guiding with conviction. From the back of the room, Emma Brown couldn't help but smile. She felt a deep sense of hope for the future. This shift wasn't just transforming the company, it was inspiring her too. Nancy had shown that true power wasn't found in asserting authority, but in the patience and determination to rebuild from the ground up. Nancy turned her gaze toward Robert Marinol, who had quietly observed the entire scene. He met her eyes, a smile of approval and support spreading across his face. Together, they had prepared for this moment, and now Nancy was making it a reality. She was doing what no one expected, not just reshaping office dynamics, but overhauling the entire culture at Titan Industries. As she finished speaking, the room remained heavy with silence. The director's eyes followed her every move, a blend of awe and uncertainty. Greg Summers was gone, and those who remained understood that the future hung on every word Nancy spoke. The fear of who might be next was unmistakable. Nancy stepped forward, pausing at the center of the room. The once powerful directors sat quietly, most avoiding her gaze, as though meeting her eyes might confirm their own vulnerability. The invisible power structures they'd relied on had crumbled, and everyone knew that Nancy was no longer someone they could ignore. She had become a formidable leader, a force they couldn't dismiss. "I hope," Nancy began, her voice calm but sharp, "that you all understand the message here today. This isn't just a warning for Greg or David. It's a call for change, a call to raise our standards and respect each other. Titan Industries will stand for something greater." With that, a new chapter began, as the once dominant powers of Titan Industries surrendered to a culture reshaped by respect, collaboration, and accountability. Sitting in this room, the culture you've cultivated at Titan Industries, the culture of disrespect and power abuse, will no longer stand. Nancy's voice rang out, firm and resolute, her gaze sweeping across the room. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. The directors shifted uncomfortably in their seats, some exchanging nervous glances, others silently accepting that Nancy now held the power. The change was undeniable, and they were no longer in control. "Titan Industries has grown tremendously in profits," she continued, her tone unwavering. "But somewhere along the way you've forgotten something crucial. The true value of a company is not measured by financial success alone. It's in how you treat the people who make that success possible." Nancy's words cut to the heart of the matter. The janitors, the secretaries, and everyone else you've looked down upon, these people are the foundation of the success you're enjoying. None of them are invisible. It wasn't just a warning, it was a reminder of the deep-seated issues within Titan Industries. A reminder that the company's true strength lay not in its profits, but in the respect and dignity afforded to every person, regardless of their position. The directors began to realize that Nancy wasn't merely trying to punish them. She was confronting the mistakes that had shaped the company for too long. She was pushing them toward a transformation that would return the company to its core values of human respect and fairness. Emma Brown, standing quietly at the back of the room, felt a surge of admiration for Nancy. This wasn't just a lecture. It was a call for reform, a chance for everyone in the company to be part of something greater. Emma could sense that this was a pivotal moment. Titan Industries was being reshaped right before her eyes, and she knew she wanted to be part of that change. Nancy let the room absorb her words for a moment before speaking again, her voice softer now, but just as powerful. "I started from the bottom," she said, her eyes steady. "I worked the jobs you never bothered to notice, and in that time I saw more than you thought. You've forgotten that a company's success is not just built on the person at the top, but on everyone working together. This is your opportunity," she continued, her voice gaining strength, "to be part of a new Titan. A company where every employee is valued, not just in theory but in practice." The room was silent, the gravity of the moment settling over everyone. The directors now understood the stark choice before them: continue on their old path of arrogance and disregard for others, or embrace the new culture Nancy was building. There was no third option, no room for ambiguity or compromise. Nancy had made it clear: adapt or leave. Nancy turned toward Robert Mason, who had been quietly observing the meeting from the side. He had stood by her throughout this process, supporting her as she quietly acquired shares in the company and prepared for this very moment. Now his gentle smile expressed his unwavering belief in her. "Thank you, Robert," Nancy said, her voice softening with gratitude. "You believed in me when no one else did. And because of your trust, we now have the chance to rebuild Titan the right way." Robert's eyes were filled with respect as he nodded, acknowledging her strength. "It's not hard to trust someone with your vision," he said. "Titan Industries needs a leader who understands people, not just numbers, and you are that person." His words resonated in the room, a public affirmation of Nancy's leadership. It was official now. She had become the new face of Titan Industries, the one who would guide the company into a new era, grounded in the values she had always championed. Nancy took a final look around the room, her eyes meeting those of the directors, ensuring they understood her message. You can stay and be part of this change, or you can leave. The choice is yours, she said, her voice strong but without force. But know this: Titan Industries will now be a place where everyone is respected, regardless of rank. And if you choose to stay, be ready for a future where our values will come first. With that, Nancy turned and walked out of the boardroom, leaving behind a stunned silence. The room was now a place of reflection, where the future of Titan Industries had been set on a new course, one that would redefine the company for years to come. With thoughtful eyes, Nancy Walker looked around. The old walls of power had crumbled, and she, the woman they once disregarded in her faded red shirt, was now the one leading Titan Industries into a new future. Emma Brown quietly followed, feeling a renewed sense of faith. This wasn't just a transformation for the company. It was a moment that would change her life and everyone else's forever. Nancy had set forth values: respect, cooperation, and patience, that would now be the guiding principles for Titan Industries. In the hallway, Emma caught up to Nancy. With a slow, heartfelt tone, she said, "Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for everything." Nancy turned, her face softening with a warm smile. "You don't need to thank me, Emma. Just remember one thing: never let anyone else define your worth. You set that yourself." Emma nodded, her admiration and gratitude shining through. She knew she had witnessed something historic, not only for the company, but for her own life as well. Nancy stepped outside, looking out over the vast city of New York. She had started from the bottom and now stood at the top. But what made her most proud wasn't the power or the money. It was knowing she had proven that patience, persistence, and respect for others were the foundations of a true leader, and of any thriving organization. Titan Industries would never be the same again, and that was all thanks to Nancy Walker. As she stepped out of Titan Industries, the sprawling New York skyline stretched out before her. The afternoon sun glinted off the skyscrapers, but today the city seemed to hold a special meaning. Nancy paused, taking a deep breath of fresh air, feeling the change around her. She had achieved what no one expected, not only transforming Titan Industries from within, but also changing the entire trajectory of her life. From a forgotten cleaner, she had risen to lead one of the industry's largest companies. Emma Brown emerged from the building after her, gazing at Nancy with renewed admiration. They both knew they were part of something that would be remembered, something that had reshaped the very core of Titan Industries. Emma nodded, her eyes shining with determination. Yes, I want to stay and help you change Titan. I believe in the values you're bringing to this company. That's why I joined Titan in the first place. Nancy looked at the young woman with encouragement. You have a bright future, Emma. I'm glad you chose this path. But remember, it won't always be easy. There will be resistance and challenges will come, but if you stay true to what you believe is right, you'll overcome everything. Emma smiled, deeply inspired by Nancy's words. She understood that change took time and patience, but Nancy had shown her that anyone, no matter where they started, could make a difference with enough determination and self-respect. Inside the building, the boardroom events lingered, a quiet but powerful wave. The directors, who once held power and control, now faced an unchangeable reality. They would have to adapt or leave. The walls of arrogance had crumbled, and Nancy had started restructuring the company from its roots. None of them would forget this day. The day a woman they once overlooked rose to become their leader. On the bustling streets of New York, Nancy and Emma walked side by side, each step full of purpose. Nancy stopped at an intersection, looking out at the busy traffic and people rushing by. She thought about her journey, from quietly cleaning in the background, unnoticed, to standing before the directors and declaring her power. She hadn't just changed her own life. She had transformed the lives of many others. Turning to Emma, Nancy spoke with sincerity. The most important thing, Emma, is to never let anyone underestimate your value. Each of us has unique strengths. As long as we believe in them and use them well, we can achieve so much. Today isn't just about me. It's about everyone who's ever been overlooked. We're going to build a better future for Titan Industries, together. Emma nodded, feeling every word resonate as a precious lesson. She realized she wasn't just working for a company, she was contributing to a mission of change, a shift in structure and respect, grounded in human values. Nancy stepped forward, sunlight glinting on her face. The New York skyline, with its towering buildings, was no longer just a symbol of power and success. It was a reminder that anyone, no matter where they came from, could rise if they had enough patience and determination. In her heart, Nancy knew her journey wasn't over. There was much more to do, many changes still to make. But today she had proven that true strength lay not in power, but in patience, respect, and the ability to create change. From this day on, Titan Industries would no longer be a place of arrogance and disregard. It would become a symbol of fairness, respect, and resilience. And it all started with a woman in a faded red shirt. A woman who didn't just clean the office, but cleaned the toxic culture of the company. Nancy and Emma continued walking through the crowded streets, their steps filled with determination and hope. A new chapter for Titan Industries had begun, and they knew the future would be brighter thanks to the courage and perseverance of people like Nancy Walker. That day, Titan Industries didn't just change, it would forever remember the story of Nancy Walker, the woman who was once underestimated but rose to take control. Thank you for following Nancy Walker's inspiring journey. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories, and thank you for your support. See you in the next video.